You can see the presentation.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. Fine. Last 2 weeks, we discussed about introduction to international trade. Then last week we discussed about the various payment methods in international trades. We mentioned that there are 4 main payment methods in international trade. That is open account, advance payment, documentary collection, and documentary credit. Last week we discussed about the 3 payment methods, that's open account, advance payment, and documentary collection. Then further, hello, somebody wants to say something? Okay. After that, we discuss about the ICC regulations governing documentary collection operations. That is URC 522. Right? And hello. Do you want to ask any questions, or is it a private conversation? I would like all the students mute their phones or computers, and whenever you want to ask some question or answer a question, please unmute it. Otherwise, it will be disturbing. You are disturbing the entire class, right? So please make sure that your phones and the computers are on mute mode. Especially, we know when you are joining from home, there are so many obstacles you have to face. Children, some are having babies, right? They don't understand these things, right? So, and we can't do anything because you are a family person. So I have no issues on that, but only thing is, for the sake of others, please mute it, right? Whenever you concentrate, whenever you want to speak, please unmute and speak. Anytime you can stop me, right? Then we are going to discuss the last payment method, and one of the most important payment methods in international trade, that is documentary credits. Now, documentary credits is commonly known as letter of credit, LCs. Hello. Please mute your phones or computers and listen to me, because you are disturbing others, right? Otherwise, we'll have to search the culprits and block it from here. But every now and then I can't stop like this. But that mute is not permanent, temporarily. Whenever you want to speak, please unmute and speak. Right? You ask the questions. Atavahagin indepa. Right? Bayanitha venuing me udawa karanna mute kalla tiyaga. Ethara ogalanta gedara ona kathaවක් karanna puluwan. Lamai nalawanna puluwan, yebabo kiyanna puluwan. ඕනම දෙයක් කැමරා එක හදලා දෙන්න පුළුවන්, ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. Okay. Then, right now we are having enough people. Then shall we start discussing documentary credits? We are under documentary credits. We are going to learn what is a documentary credit and its main features, and the principles that determine the processing and interpretation of documentary credits. Then the responsibilities and risk of each parties involved, the various types of DCs and ICC rules for DC operations. But I'm not going to go into very, very deep details, because in your case, we want to give you some awareness, but as bankers, the necessary things that you should know as you are facing the customers. What is a documentary credit or irrevocable documentary credit? We call it irrevocable. What do you mean by irrevocable? What do you mean by irrevocable? And what is the opposite of irrevocable?
Revoke.
Pardon?
Revoke.
Revoke. Not revoke. We say revocable. Revocable and irrevocable. Irrevocable. Why do you say irrevocable documentary credit?
Can't
Cannot
break
cancel.
up between
Pardon?
operation.
Cannot cancel.
It cannot be cancelled. My God, we are cancelling the LC.
Cannot be changed or reversed.
Single party cannot cancel the LC.
Yes. One party cannot cancel the LC. If you want to cancel or amend the LC, then you get the consent of all parties concerned. You have to get the consent of all parties concerned. That is irrevocable. Right? Okay. Let's see the definition. To pay a certain amount immediately or at a future date. To pay a certain amount immediately or at a future date. Right? Provided, I have put it in capital. We are paying a certain amount immediately or at a future date, provided, subject to certain conditions, provided that the stipulated documents are presented. Whatever the stipulated documents mentioned in the LC is presented, and if the documents are complied with the terms and conditions of the LC, then we will pay, right? That the stipulated documents are presented. And an undertaking from the importer's bank to the exporter, and only if the documents are in strict conformity with the DC terms. Those documents has to be complied with the terms and conditions of the LC, DC terms, document credit terms. Otherwise, we will not pay, right? So, in other words, what we say, to pay a certain amount immediately or at a future date, provided that the stipulated documents are presented, and an undertaking from the importer's bank to the exporter, and only if the documents are in strict conformity with the DC terms. So, in other words, we'll give you a definition. A documentary credit is an irrevocable undertaking. Is an irrevocable undertaking issued by a bank on behalf of the buyer, importer, to the seller, exporter, to pay for goods and or services, provided that the seller presents documents which comply fully with the terms and conditions of the documentary credit. It's very important, which comply fully. Half-boiled? No. Right? It has to be comply fully with the terms and conditions of the documentary credit. The main features of the definition, what we have discussed, is irrevocable undertaking given by the bank. Irrevocable undertaking given by a bank, that's issuing bank. Now that undertaking that is agrees not to amend or cancel without the consent of the beneficiary or the confirmed bank. Beneficiary we are going to learn, confirmed bank also we are going to learn in next couple of minutes. Right? Banks only deal with documents and not the goods. Banks only deal with documents and not the goods. The banks are only dealing with documents, not with the goods. Right? The phrase which comply fully with the terms and conditions of the documented credit refers to the fact that undertaking to pay is conditional upon terms of the credit being met. So this payment undertaking is conditional because in the LC we have given terms and conditions to meet. So if the beneficiary meets those terms and conditions, then only we will pay. So therefore it is a conditional undertaking. Right? And I would like you to get a printout of last time I told you to get a printout of URC 522 and to study on a daily basis. How many people have taken the printout? How many people? How many people have? Can you give me one or two names who has already taken a printout? Huh? Have you taken? Wyoming? Damien?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Very good. Right. Now, this one also I want you to take a printout. Right? I want you to take a printout and start studying. It is very important. If you go to get this one, we have given the UCP 600. Rules, right? This one also you have to get a printout. Here it says application of UCP, the Uniform Customs and Practice for Documented Credits 2007 revision, ICC publication number 600 UCP, are rules that apply to any documented credit, including the extent to which they may applicable. Very, very important. And then you get definitions, and then an important thing here, documents versus goods, services, or performance. Article 5. Banks deal with documents and not with goods, services, or performance to which the documents may relate. Banks deal only with the documents. Then I mentioned about Article 14. Article 14 also, there is a yeah, also they said a nominated bank acting on its nomination, a confirming bank, if any, and the issuing bank must examine the presentation to determine on the basis of the documents alone. Documents alone.
Oh, camera's on.
Right?
Camera's on. No, camera's on. It's still off.
Come on. Please adhere to the rules. Right? Mute it and then talk to your children. Right. Then we'll Go to the next slide.
That's only the teacher's one.
බන්නනේ මද දෙන්න තුමි අයින් වෙන්න.
Oh.
මේක ඔබල බලන්න ඒක වැඩ කරන්නේ නේ මොකද ස්ටක් වල ඔක්කොම ටික.
දිවිය ඔක්කොම ඇහෙනවනේ. ගෙදර ගෝරිය. ඔක්කොම අහන් ඉන්නා උණු පන්තියේම. Right. Application of UCP. Right. මොනවා කරන්නද මේ අපේ ජීවිතේ අපි ඉන්නේ මේ වගේ ප්‍රශ්න ගොඩක. එහෙම තියාගෙන ඉගෙන ගන්නවට වෙනම thank එකක් දෙන්න ඕනේ. Hats off to you all. Right. Hats off to you all. වෙන කරන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. Right. අපි ඉගෙන ගන්න කාලේ තිබුණේ නෑනේ මේ online. එතකොට දැන් ගිහිල්ලාම ඉගෙන ගන්නකොට ළමයා අරගෙන යන්න බෑ. මේ පාඩම් කරන්න. When you are studying at home, I can still remember even at 35, 36, 37 years, 40 years in order, Mama, when I was doing my law exams and all, my පුතාවත් ළඟින් තියන්න මම පාඩම් කරන්නේ. Right? ඒ වගේ තමයි අපි කරන්න වෙන්නේ. ඒක කරන්න ඔයගොල්ලෝ ළමයි ළඟ තියන්න හැබැයි without disturbing others. Application of UCP. All documentary credits should be handled according to the ICC Code of Practice, known as Uniform Customs and Practice. This is Article 1. Right? Then we were talking about the letter of credit. There are two common types of letter of credit. That is, in Article 1 also, they say there are two types of documentary credit they are talking. One is documentary credit and standby letter of credit. Both they are talking. Right here, just make a print එකක් තියන්න ඉතින් ලේසි. දිගටම මට එහාට මෙහාට කරකවන්න එනවා. That apply to any documentary credit. That apply to any documentary credit. Right? Including to the extent that they may be applicable to any standby letter of credit. Any standby letter of credit. You saw that? So, letter of credit, the UCP is applicable for normal documentary credit as well as standby letter of credit. Right? So one type is documentary or commercial letter of credit, that is active payment instructions. And that is an active financing tool. Standby letter of credit is a passive payment instrument and passive financing tools. Right? And both they are depending on the performance and the financial and trade related things. If I explain to you a little bit further, when we open a LC, normal LC, documentary page, under documentary credit, right? We open issue LC, then the beneficiary will perform the thing properly as per the terms and conditions of the LC. If so, we will pay. If so, we will pay. Only if they perform as per the terms and conditions of the LC, we will pay. That is the active payment instructions. Right? Standby LC, standby LC is if the beneficiary does not perform, then we will pay. If If the beneficiary does not perform, we will pay. Normal document credit, if the beneficiary perform, we will pay. The beneficiary perform. If the beneficiary perform, we will pay. This one, if the beneficiary does not perform, we will pay. Right? Now, this is very important to understand the difference between normal documented credit and the standby LC. Right? When we are going forward, next week, we are going to discuss about standby LCs further. So, at the moment, I am not touching this. We'll discuss about the documented credit. Right? When we are discussing about the standby LCs, then we'll discuss about the standby LCs. Right? Now, the DC as a method of payment, I told you there are four principal payment methods, right? Four principal payment methods, that is advance payment, open account, and collection, and LCs. The first three, open account, advance payment, and collection, right? All three payment methods, the main feature is either the seller or buyer has to depend upon the good faith and performance of the other party for the smooth exchange of goods and payment. We know that. In advance payment, who is at a risk, buyer or seller? Quickly. Advance payment, who is at a risk, buyer or seller?
Buyer.
Buyer. Very good. Open account?
Seller.
Seller. Collection, it is a little bit mitigated, risk is a little bit mitigated, but still the exporter is at a risk. Exporter is at a risk. If the buyer doesn't take the documents, then goods will be lying in the port. Right? And on the other hand, if the buyer has taken the goods on DA basis, and if they have not paid the bill on the due date, again, exporter is at a risk. Right? In documented credit, that will provide the seller and the buyer with independent assurance in exchange of goods for payment. All the other three, they didn't get any independent assurance. But LCs, we are given independent assurance. Given by whom? Who gives this independent assurance? Okay, you perform this job, I will pay. How do they make in a pinvantya?
Issuing bank.
Make a issuing bank, very good. Kyanapati nama?
Shehan.
Shan. Shan, which bank you are working?
Visa. HNB.
HNB. Very good. Very good. Very good. You are in a branch?
No, sir. Card center.
Card center. So a person being in the card center who has no idea of what is happening in the branches and the credit area gave me the correct answer. Right? The others also, now you have to think and you have to give your answers. You may be knowing about the thing. You have to give the answers before Shahan. Right? Okay. Good. This is, we call about the independent assurance by the issuing bank. Now we'll talk more on this independent principle. Right? Importer is there. Importer, the buyer has an obligation to the issuing bank to pay upon claim for payment. Buyer will request the issuing bank to issue a LC. And buyer has the obligation to the issuing bank to pay upon claim for payment. Then based on the LC application, the issuing bank will issue the LC and advise the LC to the advising or confirming bank. We are going to discuss about these names later. Right? Gradually, then the EC will be advised to the exporter. Now, all these people have different separate contracts. Between the importer, buyer, and the issuing bank, we have another separate contract. And indemnity also. Right? Between the buyer and his bank, issuing bank. Then when the issuing bank advises the LC, the advising bank or the confirming bank, between confirming bank and the issuing bank, they have another contract. Unwritten but unwritten contract. Then there are certain obligations. Then advising bank confirming bank and between the exporter, they have another contract. Of course, there's a written contract between the importer and the exporter. Right? Issuing bank has the obligation to the exporter to pay if he has complied with with all the terms and conditions of the LC. All the terms and conditions, right? Halfway, no. Let's see who are the parties to a documentary credit. Let's see who are the parties to a documentary credit. Like in the collection, there are certain terminology as per the UCP 600. Right? The importer or buyer will be called applicant. Why they are calling applicant? Your class is good. And so far, so good. Right? But don't think whether your answer is correct or wrong. Right? One is going to give marks for that. But the participation is most important. Right? Why they are called applicant? These common sense questions. Whatever came through my mouth last 10-15 minutes, half an hour, it's enough for you to grab the answer. Why they are called being applicant? ගොඩාක් හිතන්න එපා මේක සෙන්ට්‍රල් බැංක් එකේ මේ එක්ස්චේන්ජ් කන්ට්‍රෝල් රෙගියුලේෂන් එක හදනවා වගේ එහෙම නැත්නම් පීබී ජයසුන්දර අය සාර ආටිකලයි ට්‍රෙෂරි එකේ දේවල් කරනවා වගේ ඒ වගේ හිතන්න යන්න එපා. ඕව සරල දෙයක්. why they are called applicant.
Request the credit.
Requesting the credit. Hari. උත්තරේ ගොඩක් හරි. Requesting කියන වචෙන් අපි තව වචනයක්
Apply.
apply. They are the people who will apply for the credit to be issued. Apply means who are the people who will give the application. The person who is giving application, whoever the person signing the application, is the applicant. Okay? Application is the applicant. Is the applicant. Right? Then importer's bank. It is called issuing bank. Importer's bank is called issuing bank. Bank in exporter's country, we call advising bank. Advising bank. Right. Now make a right. We have importer. This is the best way to study. Importer, he will give the application You can see the board.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Which is number 1. You can see the application, right? Then they will provide the application to the issuing bank. Issuing bank is whose bank? Importers bank or exporters bank?
Importers.
Bank.
Importers bank, right? Then based on the application, these people will issue LC. Issue DC, right? This is number 2. And then they will advise the DC to the advising bank. Advising bank, right? Or we can say confirming bank. Sometimes we confirming bank. A single account. If it is a confirming bank, we advise LC direct to the confirming bank. Otherwise, normal LCs, we advise to the advising bank. That bank is a correspondent bank of issuing bank. Where we are having correspondent relationship. Right? Then they will advise the LC to the beneficiary. Beneficiary is who is the beneficiary?
Exporter.
Exporter.
Exporter. They will advise LC to the beneficiary. Right? Then, right, now all the parties we have discussed about all parties. Issuing bank, importer, advising bank and confirming bank, beneficiary, right? All parties are there. Right? So, when these people receive the LC, they will carefully go through the LC and then ship the goods. They will ship the goods. Right? Then collection again, number 4. Ship the goods. Right? Okay, not done with the Mama. We can put home then fill in the blanks. An irrevocable DC can only be cancelled or amended with the agreement of all parties to the DC. With the agreement of all parties to the DC. It is very important. Now, DC applicant is not a party to the LC. DC applicant is not a party to the LC. Now, this guy is applicant. Right? It's applicant. And between the buyer and the seller, we have the sales contract. Between the buyer and the seller, we have the sales contract. Then based on the sales contract only, they will apply. Right? Now, who are the parties to a LC? This guy is not a party to the LC. Right? Only parties to the LC is issuing bank, confirming bank, not the advising bank, not the advising bank. I will say why confirming bank, later you will understand, right? And the beneficiary. And the beneficiary. These are the 3 main parties, 3 parties to the LC contract. right? Why importer is not a party to the DC contract? Can somebody give me the answer? Why DC applicant is not a party to the DC contract? Why? Give me answer.
Documentary credit can be cancelled without applicant's consent.
No. ඒක හරියට බහත් නැහැ. තව පොඩ්ඩක් අපි හදමු. තව පොඩ්ඩක් හිතන්න.
Documentary credit can be cancelled only if the applicant, advising bank, and confirming bank, all three parties give the consent to cancel it.
Wrong. Your answer is wrong because why I asked you why the applicant is not a party to the DC contract. In that case, how the hell he gives a consent to cancel the LC? My question is why they are not a party to the contract? Why? Because the reason is whether once the importer or the applicant gives a request to the issuing bank, who gives the irrevocable undertaking?
Issuing bank.
Issuing bank, not the applicant. It is issuing bank who gives the irrevocable undertaking. Right? Whether the applicant wishes or not, whether the applicant pays or not, they will pay. They will pay because they have given an irrevocable undertaking. Right? That is why applicant is not a party to the LC. Abay api lamai kiwwahama exam eකට දෙන question examiner will always test this from who are the parties to a DC contract. Patas kala පටන් ගන්නේ applicant, issuing bank, confirming bank, beneficiary. Here advising bank දාන negotiating bank. तीन ඔක්කොම ටික දාන්න. Right? Only three parties from the issuing bank, confirming bank, and the beneficiary. Those are the three parties to a DC contract. Applicant is not a party. Right? Bank's consideration prior to issuing a DC. Now we have an issue. We were talking about this guy is not a party to the LC. Fine. Then issuing bank will issue the LC on behalf of the applicant. He will issue the LC on behalf of the applicant. If you are issuing something on behalf of the applicant as a banker, if you are giving any guarantee to a third party on behalf of your customer, what are the very first thing you do? There are few RMs in this class, I know. Tell me the answer. What is the very first thing you will do? If you are giving any undertaking to a third party on behalf of a customer. The bank guarantee එකක් bank guarantee එකෙත් අපි එහෙමද කරන්නේ? bank guarantee එක දෙන්නේ bank එකෙන්නේ. මොනවද අපි ඉස්සරහ හොයන්නේ?
Get a collateral.
Sorry පුතේ මට තේරුන්නේ නැහැ හරියට.
Banks get the collateral.
Collateral. Banks get the collateral. Very good. Correct answer. Why? 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 because they are going to give an irrevocable undertaking on behalf of the customer. So if something goes wrong, they have to pay. Something goes wrong, they have to pay. If the customer says no, still the issuing bank has to pay. In a scenario like that, they have to have collateral from the importer so that we can realize the collateral and pay them. Right? So we can have it. So for that, we have to have a facility. Unlike collection, open account and advance payment, where we are not having any facilities, here we have to have a facility. Right? So he has to have adequate and appropriate import facilities. Then the general security agreement. General security agreement is also very, very important. That's why I said different contracts. Between the importer and the issuing bank, they have a separate contract. This guy, Mr. Perra and Sons will come to the issuing bank and they will say, we want to open LCs. We want to have facilities for import and export both. Then they have to, this issuing bank or the customer's bank has to prepare certain facilities for the customer. Right? Then they will ask for certain collateral. They will cover the. On top of that, they will ask this importer to sign a general security agreement to provide all the rights to the bank of pledge undertaking, settlement authority, and right of recourse, everything. Right? This is a 12 to 15 pages document in small letters, right? In small letters in A4 paper size pages. So once the security, once you finalize the facility with the customer, then you will say, okay, now Mr. Perra, I'm glad to inform you that we are prepared to give you the facility. Customer is very happy now. Right? But we need certain security documentation. Yes, madam, what is there for me to sign? Property mortgages, so complete now. After you sign all those security documentation, we can disburse the money, or we can start opening LCs. Right? General security agreement. Make us sign. Every page you have to put your signature, and then last page you have to sign. You have to put the company stamp and all those things. Customer 99.99% of the customers, they never read this damn document. Right? They just stand because the preethim pinagila inne facility ka hari. Then they make a sign karna. Man kiyanda board the nadda kela ugu kiyanda branches la inna katti. Again, the customers again behavior. Facility ka hari hari. Dunna go gamang hari KK ko tarangela ko sankara dalena. Right? Then one tanim in anadi. At the end, answer again, a customer will them and a customer will them. I love those. Pay customer than a sign gun, a marna varan circular than me. If you read it carefully, this general security agreement, even I think trade finance general agreement, TFGA, trade finance general agreement, TFGA, you get everything under the sun and moon. Make it, settlement authority and right of recourse, everything. Make it we have interesting LCs, right of recourse, without recourse, so both. So even the certain things, even if it is without recourse to the customer, make it, even if it is without recourse, it is with recourse to the customer. Right? හරියට ඒකට ගන්නද සමල් රොඩ්රිගෝලගේ විනෝද සමය වගේ මට ඌ ගහනවා ඌ මට ගහනවා. මම තමයි පිටු කාලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා එයා දන්නේ නැහැ. එයා ගහලා අස්සම් කරලා ඉවරයි. right? ඌ මට ගහනවා මට ඌ ගහනවා. පොඩ්ඩක් කල්පනා කරලා බලුවම කවුද පිටු කාලා දෙන්නේ? මට ඌ ගහනවා කියන්නේ මම පිටු කාලා. ඌ මට ගහනවා කියන්නේ මම පිටු කාලා. ඒක මම තමයි පිටු කාලා දෙන්නේ. අහන මිනිහට දෙන්නේ හරිය තමයි කියලා. මමත් ගහලා තියෙනවා ඒක නෑ. මමයි පිටු කාලා තියෙන්නේ. right? ඒ වගේ තමයි ජනරල් සෙක්‍රටරි කියුවේ. උසාවියට ගියාම කේස් එකක් වෙලාට මම at Standard Chartered Bank, I was a head of trade. Before I became the head of trade, I was a head of trade admin. I was a trade admin head. Trade admin එකේදී මගේ සුමාන්ට දවස් දෙකක් තුනක් හවුස් ස්ටොප් එකේ උසාවියේ නඩු වලට යනවා යන්න ඕනේ ෆයිල් ටික උස්සගෙන. යාම කස්ටමර් ලොකු lawyers-ලා අල්ලගෙන එළියෙන් ඇවිල්ලා. ඒකනේ කොට lawyers-ලා මගේ අර DIT ක්ලාස් එකට එන්නේ. මෙහි තියෙන diploma in trade ක්ලාස් එකට කොට lawyers එනවා. Attorney General's department එකේ ඒක lawyer කෙනෙක් අවුරුදු දෙකකට කලින් ක්ලාස් එකට ආවා. ඒක දැකලා තියෙන විතරම ලංකාවේ මොන කේස් එකක් ගියත් ඒ මනුස්සයා petition එකක් දානවා. නම කියන්න කැමති නැහැ. petition එකක් දානවා. ගෝලේ. මම ඇයි කරන්නේ කියලා. එහාවේ. නැත්නම් සර් ඉන්ටර්නැෂනල් ට්‍රේඩ් කියන අමුතුම ඒරියා එකක් අපිට ගොඩක් කේසස් එනවා. අපි දන්නේ නැහැ මේවා nitty-gritty මේකද තමයි මේවා එන්නේ කියලා. ඉතින් අතනට ගිහිල්ලා when you go to the courts, the judge will the customer lawyer, right? According to UCP 600 Article 12, when it comes to negotiation, right? If it is compliant documents, article if it is compliant documents, the bank will negotiate the document and release the money to the customer without recourse to the customer. They have the recourse to the issuing bank again. So the customer is innocent. That is according to the UCP 600. But in this general security agreement, the customer has signed, even if we advance money without recourse to the customer, we treat it as with recourse to the customer. Right? It was a mama document judge Your Honor, please read this sentence. Right? Case will come back to the bank side. So therefore, the general security agreement is very, very important. Status report on the beneficiary. Status report on the beneficiary. Customer is in one country. Beneficiary is in another country. And we don't know each other. So we have to get status reports. And always, it is better, before we finalize our relationship with the importer, better to get status reports of the beneficiaries of our customers. Right? In that, case by case, goods. Consideration should be given to whether the DC is being open to import goods that are considered usual for the particular customer. Whether it's in the customer's normal business line. If EH Kure. Who are they? EH Kure? Aladinani? EH Kure and Company? Who are they? What are their business? EH Kure. For years and years.
Furnitures.
Furniture. They are furniture people. Have you ever heard EH Kure is importing dry fish and Bombay onions? Have you?
No.
No, never. I have not heard. Right? So if my customer is EH Kure, if you get a LC from them to open LC application, to import dry fish and bee onions, this is something fishy. So you have to be careful, right? Then the workability of the DC. The question, does the transaction make sense? You should always address this issue. Insurance. Why we need insurance? Insurance of what? Life insurance or marine insurance? It should be marine. Marine insurance is built because the goods are in transit from one country to the other. Anything can happen. Damages to the goods. So we have to get the goods secure. Right? We have to insure them. Why we are so bothered about the insurance? Why the issuing bank is so bothered about the insurance? And the insurance has to be consigned to the issuing bank of the importer. And why? Why? Gentlemen. Again, common sense. I am not asking any questions from UCP. Why issuing bank is bothered about the insurance?
To reduce the risks.
Are they?
To reduce the risks.
To reduce the risk, obviously. Why? Why they are bothered?
Bank give the irrevocable undertaking.
Very good. Fantastic. I'm
I'm Malika.
Huh?
I'm Malika.
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 Mahika.
Malika.
Malika, right. Which bank you are from?
Bank of Ceylon.
Bank of Ceylon. Very good answer. But I threw never, right? Because they are the people who are given the irrevocable undertaking to the beneficiary. Irrevocable undertaking. She used that word, right? Then, who is responsible for the payment? Issuing bank. Therefore, issuing bank wants to cover their risk. Okay, good, very good. Benefits and disadvantages in documented credit operations. The benefits to the buyer. Payment are made on his behalf in return for documents that represent the goods and give him ownership of them. For the buyer, payment are made on his behalf. Issuing bank will do the payment on his behalf, right? And then once they do the payment, issuing bank will give them the document. For seller, he can look to the issuing bank for payment instead of relying on the ability or willingness of the buyer. Now, these guys are, the importers are also, they know that issuing bank will look after the transaction. And so they are happy. And these guys are also very happy because they are going to get the money from issuing bank, not from the import. Even though the import is a culprit, they don't have to worry about the money. Disadvantages for the buyer, he may have to provide a marginal deposit when the documented credit is open. Obviously, the disadvantage is sometimes the issuing bank will ask for marginal deposit. Right? If you are opening LCs to import vehicles, the bank will ask for 110% margin. Sometimes they will say, okay, on top of the other security you have kept with us, we need you to keep 50% cash margin for this particular transaction. Transaction to transaction, based on the risk, they will say. So when the issuing bank is asking for margin, the importer has to keep that money. So he's blocking his funds. And for the seller, he cannot obtain payment unless he complies with all the documentary terms. Seller also there's a disadvantage. He can't just send the documents and goods and get the money. He has to comply with the terms and conditions of the LC. Banks role in these operations. They will assist the settlement of international commercial transaction, both banks, and provide safeguard for the parties involved. They will provide safeguard to the importer. These people will provide safeguard to the exporter. Right? Ensure payment, provided terms are complied with. Even the confirming bank will ensure payment to the beneficiary, provided the terms and conditions are complied with. Then deal in documents and not in the goods, right? Or services involved. And the payment are made on this basis to the bank. And for that, bank has a right to collect their charges as forex profit, interest, and commission income. Right? Now the DC cycle I have given, whatever I have mentioned here, can you go through it and see 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, up to 5. After that, I will explain to you. We're going to pay on the DC cycle again. Step 5 in the Mummy, I put it in right? Make a make up. But make a number and better than the over offset. Number sales contract. First step. That's the very first step. This is second. This is third. This is fourth. And this is fifth. Right? After that, when the beneficiary ship the goods, they will submit documents. They will submit the documents to the confirming bank or advising bank, or we call it negotiating bank. Negotiating bank. Right? We call it negotiating bank. They will submit the documents. Now, normally, last time, under collection, when these people are submitting the documents, they will send the document to the issuing bank for payment. That's the next step happened under collection. Now, here is different. The negotiating bank, maybe the confirming bank or the advising bank, right? Whoever the bank negotiating these documents, negotiating means giving value, right? If the documents are complied, these documents are complied with the terms and conditions of the LC, fully complied with the terms and conditions of the LC, they will give the money payment if compliant. If compliant, negotiate. compliant, negotiate. Right? Negotiation means giving the value. So still the documents, goods have gone, still the documents are with the exporters bank in exporters country, right? But the exporter has already got the money. The exporter has already got the money. This is where, this is the beauty in LC, right? Then only these people will send the documents to the issuing bank for payment. And when issuing bank receives the document, they will also check whether the documents are complied with the terms and conditions of the LC, which they have issued. They have the original copy. They check word by word, right? And then they will pay. If the documents are complied with the terms and conditions of the LC, they will pay. So they will pay in the sense, right? They immediately reimburse. The immediately reimburse if compliant. They immediately reimburse if compliant. Still, they don't want to worry about the applicant, but they are holding the documents. Real life scenario, there can be a small deviation. Banks adagat the practices, right? That means these people will inform the importer, then the importer will come and pay them, then only will send the money out. Anything banks adagat. I am talking about the theory. Right? I am talking about the theory. So then we will inform the applicant, okay, now we have received your documents, please come and correct it. So the applicant will come to the bank, right, and pay. Once they pay, we will give the document. Once they pay, we will give the document. The method, what is mega kilo? If it is a site runner, site take it up, we may withdraw it. Now, when we send the money here, negotiated bank, they have already given the money to the beneficiary. So they won't, we have to ensure that we should not duplicate the payment. And out of these documents, if they have given, for example, out of 100,000, if you have given 95,000, 90,000, right? The balance 10,000 only we will give, right? Otherwise, don't duplicate the payment. But this is the theory. Only difference is this can be 10 can be 9, 11 can be 10, and 9 can be 11. After we debit the customer only, we will debit the money. Right? Okay. Any questions on this? Any questions on this? The DC cycle, I have discussed with you step by step. Then already make a then liagan hedo, liagan pa. Oganda picture the right? It is the mark take one time karagando. Right? Okay. DC application. What do we do when a customer brings a DC application? Right? When a customer brings a DC application. I don't know whether I asked them to. Here, yes. This is a DC application. Right? This one, of course, prepared by me itself. Right? Mama make a man, medical bank here. කාටද කියන්න පුළුවන්ද බැංක් එක අඳුර ගන්න පුළුවන්ද? I have erased the logo. But pretty කැලක් ඉතුරුලා තියෙනවා. Banking on the human spirit. Who is the bank?
Cargills.
Cargills. Cargills එකද පුතේ? Cargills bank ද? Answer. බය වුණාද එකපාරට? කවුද answer එක දුන්නේ? මම හිතුවේ Cargills bank එකේද නැද්ද කියලා විතරයි. ඕකද නෑ. Right. Because I'm the one who set up the department for them long time back. I was there from the inception. So I set up this DC application. Now, when it comes to a DC application, you get applicant's name and address. Then the beneficiary's name and address. Here, the applicant name and address. Right? Then the beneficiary's name and address. Right? Right? Then date of this application, import account number, DC number. We had to put the DC number here. Right? We had to put the DC number. Right? Then partial shipment allowed, transshipment allowed, currency and amount in figures, currency and amount in words, everything is there. Right? Then how we are going to do it, credit available, whether it's at site, nuisance or whatever, right? Then Incoterms, right? Whether it's FOB, CFR, CIF. Then documents required. These are the documents required, right? Manually signed invoices in how many copies? Memorandum bill of lading, how many copies? Full set. Bill of lading to indicate container numbers, whatever. You have to tick, right? So these things you have to fill everything and give it to the importer's bank or the issuing bank for them to issue the LC. These details, how they are going to fill the importer? They had to get the agreement between the buyer and the seller. We said sales contract. Sales contract. A sales contract එකේ තියෙන information ටික අපි ගන්නවා තව document එකකට. Seller will give that document to you for you to open the LC. So with this LC application, you have to submit that particular document also to the issuing bank for them to check. What is it? And most of these details, you can get it from, or you are getting from that particular document. What do you call that document?
Proforma invoice.
Proforma invoice. Very good. Proforma invoice. Right? Okay. Very good. Then, when we receive the DC application, we have to allocate a number, verify this applicant's signature, and blah, 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 everything. You have to check, right? Number 7, if DC terms are FOB or CFR, then we have to ask the customer to provide us the insurance, right? Everything. Number 10, compliance with the policies of the bank, arms and explosives, ammunitions. We are not narcotics. We are not allowing them to open LCs, right? According to the bank policies. So all those things you have to check. This I have introduced a new slide, especially for you guys this year, right? Earlier, this slide was not there, but international trade is a subject which is getting changed every day. So since what I thought, this is for postgraduate class, you all are either officers or system managers or managers of respective banks or credit relationship managers. So you are the people who will get as the branch people, you will get the letter of credit application. You will get the letter of credit application. So when you receive the letter of credit application, can somebody volunteer to tell me, not a Colombo branch, at the branch, what I can do a Karapataka branch again? Apitumo Kurnagala, Bank of Slum Kurnagala, Inno. Then with Tamai in name assistant manager again, then they know credit officer, credit officer. The customer will come and give you the LC application. Are you going to open? Can you open the LC from Kurnagala branch, Bank of Slum? Can somebody answer my question in the Bank of Slum crowd? Right? Are they opening the LC or they are sending it to Colombo to open the LC?
Send them to Colombo.
Yeah, you have to send it to Colombo. You have to send it to Colombo. But when you are sending the application along with the pro forma invoice, what do you think as a branch person, if you go through certain things and find out whether these people have filled everything, that will be better. Then the Colombo guys also, the trade finance guys, doesn't have to give 1001 telephone calls and ask for clarification. Right? So that's why I said letter of credit, set it up right. So the first thing, the moment you receive the application, just check this 20 points. Just check this 20 points before you send the application to Colombo, your head office, trade finance department. Right? Just see whether it's a irrevocable, normally irrevocable whenever bank application again. Then issue date expiry. Expiry date location issuing bank name is there. Bank of Slum, that's obvious. Advising banking trade in the import export details that you can check. Value and currency, whether the column has been filled. Description of goods, right? Required documents, payment terms, Incoterms, port-to-port information, shipment from, shipment to information, right? LC fees, who will pay, later shipment date, presentation date, all these things, 20 points, you can immediately check. The 20 points, once you check about 5-6 applications, you will automatically, it will be in your blood. Right? We may take a feel like a customer, very important. Right? Okay. Advice of letters of credit to the beneficiary. Right? When we advise a letter of credit to the beneficiary, bears credit risk of the issuing bank. When we are advising, we have to see the credit risk of the issuing bank. Because if Bank of Slum, Bank of Slum received an LC, right? And the issuing bank is Somerset. Issuing bank is Somerset or RDA. Right? Are you going to accept it for advising? Are you going to advise it? Are you going to advise it? Because as a Bank of Slum senior officer, you should know Somerset doesn't open LCs because they don't have trade finance department. It is a bank. Don't get involved in trade finance. And also, what is the other bank I mentioned?
RDB.
RDB also, they are also not issuing LCs. They don't have trade finance. Right? So if you get a LC from those two banks, then you have to be very careful. The LC is shift again in Diploma, mail LC is in Diploma, can be a forge. Right? So you have to be careful. Even at that thing, advising bank, independent blood bank, that is also a bank. Right? Blood bank is also a bank. You have to be careful. There's credit risk of the issuing bank. There's full country risk of the transaction. Full country risk of it. These days, the world is a little bit, they have a question mark on our LCs. We have some country risk because of the scarcity of dollars. Responsible for ensuring compliance with pro forma invoice. Responsible for ensuring compliance with pro forma invoice. As an advising bank, their responsibility is limited to authentication of the LC. We say apparent authentication. Apparent authentication. As you see it, you have to see it's authenticated. Apparent authentication. Drishyamana satyata. Drishyamana satyata. Dakina vidyata. If you have received the LC on Swift format, MT700 Swift format, then it is automatically authenticated. Nothing to worry. Right? Otherwise, we have to check. Right? Has no payment obligation. These people, when they advise a LC to the beneficiary, they don't have any payment obligations. They are doing a post office job. But they can advocate for beneficiary. But the beneficiary wants to know certain things with some nitty-gritty. advising bank will advise. Right? Without any responsibility, they will advise. Role of the advising bank. Advising bank has to verify the authenticity of the LC, right? Thereby protecting the beneficiary from any fraud, right? Fraudulent activities, right? So they have to ensure it is duly authenticated. One. Advocate for the beneficiary. Advocate for the beneficiary, but without having any conflict of interest, right? You have to advocate the beneficiary if they want to know certain things. Another advice customer sometimes you have noticed some gray areas or funny areas in that LC. So those things you have to inform them. Right? Please be careful again. Other benefits of using your bank: commitment to customer service, relationship pricing, and consistency in processing. Right? Okay. Important consideration when advising LCs: advising banks' rules and obligation. We have to look for LC transmission method, whether how we are going to get the LC. It's under SWIFT or mail LC, right? Or telex. Then 99.9% are SWIFT LCs. Then advising procedures and advising commission and amendments. We always charge advising commission and amendments. We'll have to take certain precautions when you are advising. Doubt regarding the integrity of the beneficiary of a credit. If this guy, that is why KYC has to play a major role. KYC, right? So when you, before you open the LC, you have to have an account relationship with the owner, right? And if you have doubt regarding the integrity of the beneficiary of credit, don't do it. Yes, precautions. You are unnecessarily getting dragged into issues, right? Narcotics. Dealer connect, drug dealer connect, beneficiary, better not to touch them and don't do any business with them, right? Then now illegal operations, you know better than everybody. That since if you are a banker, you should know all your customers in your branch, right? It's a must. But even if you repair, see this year accounting means documents business LC received from a bank with no established agency arrangements. When you receive the LC from the issuing bank, you have to make sure that you are having good agency arrangements in that particular bank. Right? LC is not subject to UCP 600. Sometimes you will get LCs to say, normally in every LC, you have to say LC is subject to UCP 600. But it is subject to UCP 600. But I have come across, once or twice I have come across LCs, but not in Sri Lanka. When I was working in overseas, I have come across some LCs. They are mentioned not subject to UCP 600. Not subject to. Very funny, eh? We always say subject to UCP 600, they may go ahead and done this application. I think they are not subject. They can fraud data. Advising commission and amendments. Beneficiary is a customer of the bank. Advising. Beneficiary is a customer of the advising bank. Right? If the beneficiary is a customer of the bank, then it is very easy for us to collect our commission. Normally, LC advising commission, normally we used to take flat rate, flat amount, like 500,000 rupees, 1,500 rupees, 2,000 rupees, even flat amount. Right? So if the LC, if the beneficiary is one of their customers, then we can debit his account and hand over the LC to them. Right? But if the beneficiary is not a customer of the bank, then how we are going to do? How we are going to hand over the LC to them? How we are going to hand over the LC to them? Not a customer of the bank. Again, common sense. What the beneficiary is not a customer of the bank. Now, how we are going to collect your charges? Without collecting charges, commissions? The advising bank at the answer that remaining. We are doing a business. How can we collect? I'm just trying to discuss the practical scenarios. So, one details and then I go down. Platform mostly branch people. So basically, a branch customer can win a service at the a document hand work and is dragging Sunday Gogan Kandona. Handling commission done. Customer, yes, we can debit the account. Non-customer. Non-customer, what? Huh? We can ask, come on, we can ask this customer.
We can connect the cash to our common account. Dilusha.
Huh?
Dilusha.
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 Dilusha. Dilusha, very good. Very good, Dilusha. Are you comprehensive? Answer that. Which bank was it?
Bank of Ceylon.
Bank of Ceylon. Where the branch is there?
Tambuttekam branch.
Tambut. Happy, Dilusha. I'm going to Indona. Answer can lame. But Matona Varan exam distinction. Right? ඔයාලා කිව්වේ මං යන ගමන් එන්නම් කියලා නේද හම්බෙන්න?
ඔව් සර්.
Right? Okay, Divisha. We had to ask them to pay cash to our මොනවද ඒකට කියන්නේ මේ suspense account එකට නේද? suspense cash account එකට account number එකක් දීලා එහෙම නැත්නම් commission account එකට number එකක් දීලා ගියන්න. Once they pay the money, they have to come to you with the copy. Cash එක දෙනවා stamp කරලා copy එක 1,000 rupees collected, then only we'll hand over the document. Okay, that's the way you have to do it, right? Even the amendments the same way, right? Now we have to see advising of credit and UCP 600 article 9. Now in UCP 600 article 9 talks about the advising of credit, right? අපි මේකේ කැලින් කලි ඉවර කරලා දාමු. ඉතින් අපි articles ටික මේ ටික බලලා ඊට පස්සේ අපි article 9 එකට යනවා. The advising bank has to satisfy itself of the authenticity of the credit or amendment, right? If it cannot do so, it will have to revert to the bank from whom the LC was received. It may choose to advise a beneficiary, clearly indicating that it has not been able to satisfy itself on the authenticity, right? This is something like this. Now, when the advising bank has received LC, this particular LC, right? First thing they have to see whether if it is MT 700, no issue, because it is auto tested, automatic tested, perfect. But if the problem is only any other format, like Swift 999 එක කාවන Swift 999 format එකේ එවන LC carrier, then it is not authenticated. Then it is not authenticated. Then we will not advise. Right? Only Swift MT 700 තමයි අපි කරන්නේ. MT 999 නම් අපි ගන්න. Right? Even MT 600 is a different type. Only MT 700, it is okay. So, what these people have, advising bank has to check only whether this LC is authenticated. Right? We say apparent authenticity. Then only they will advise. If not, they will not advise. They will go back to the issuing bank saying that what you have sent to us, we are unable to authenticate the LC. So therefore, we have not advised the LC. You have to do it immediately. If you are not satisfied yourself on the authenticity of the LC. Unless it has added its confirmation, such an advice is without any engagement to honor or negotiate, even if nominated to do so. Even if these people are, issuing bank has nominated the advising bank to negotiate, if we are not added confirmation, unless otherwise if we have added confirmation, you are not obliged to negotiate. You are not obliged to negotiate. So normally when we advise LC to the beneficiary, we put a clause saying that please be advised that we have received this LC from Dubai Bank, right? We are advising this LC to you without any responsibility or obligations, on our part. So, this is a Bank of Islam Tamil will advise it to their company without any responsibility or obligations on their part. Right? They are just doing a post office job. They don't take any responsibility. Right? But if you added confirmation, it's a different thing. Then you have to you have responsibility. If a bank has advised the LC through a particular advising bank or second advising bank to advise a credit, it must use the same bank to advise any amendment thereto. That means this has happened. Sometimes this will happen. Now the customer, the beneficiary, the Bank of Ceylon has received the LC. They are the advising bank, right? Bank of Ceylon, BOC, advising bank. Right? NDB bank, NDB is the exporters bank. Exporters bank. Right? So, in a scenario like that, Bank of Ceylon, now issuing bank, Dubai Bank. Dubai Bank. Right? So Dubai Bank will send the LC to Bank of Ceylon to advise. Right? But Bank of Ceylon is the first advising bank. First advising bank. Check that in the no. Okay. The Megavilla BOC is the first advising bank. Right? Then this guy, but the customer is doing business with NDB Kabutegam. Right? He doesn't have any accounts with BOC. And he doesn't want any thing coming from BOC bank. Right? He said, okay, send the LC to us. But the problem is, Dubai Bank doesn't have any correspondent relationship with NDB Bank. But they have the correspondent relationship with Bank of Ceylon, BOC. So they send the LC to BOC, first advising bank. Then BOC will send the advice LC, and they will authenticate and advise LC to NDB Bank. They are the second advising bank. Right? First advising bank, second advising bank. මම එච්චක් හිමින් උගලන්ට මේ කියලා දෙන්නේ මේවා පොළොවට වැටෙන්න ඕනේ නේද? Now it's clear. Now you get subsequent amendment. When you get a subsequent amendment, now issuing bank also Dubai Bank knows that NDB Bank is the exporters bank. Now, if you are getting a subsequent amendment, now you can't send the amendment. This is the original. The amendment, you can't send the amendment directly. This is amendment. You can't send the amendment directly to NDB bank. This is wrong. It has to go through the same path, like how we have advisors. It has to go through the same path, right? Take the third again here. If a bank receives LC for advising and chooses not to do so, it must so inform without delay the bank from which the credit, amendment, or advice has been received. When they advise, when the Asian bank advise the LC to the investing bank, if they don't want to advise, there's no prerogative. They have the right or the freedom to decide whether to advise or not. And if they think this beneficiary is a culprit, narcotic dealer, it's true, they are customer, but they know there's a narcotic dealer. And if they don't want to get involved unnecessarily for this transaction, right? And this guy is going to import LC potatoes, no narcotics, potatoes. But he knows that these people know that beneficiary is a narcotic dealer, right? Matane then out of the Kali, Ava, Pakistan and potato consignment. A potato ලස්සන්ට potatoes වගේම plastic වලින් හදපු potatoes වගේකට අර්ථපල් වගේකට ඇතුලේ කුඩු පුරවලා ගෙනල්ලා අතුනවා. ඒ වගේ දේවල් එනවා. එතකොට දැන් බැංක් එකෙන් අහන්න එනවා CID ගියාම bank is also getting question. True that they don't have any responsibility. They are only dealing with documents, not with goods. True, but unnecessarily they get dragged. And because of that, if you are not willing to, if you are not going to advise the LC to the beneficiary, you have to go back to them and inform the issuing bank immediately. Right? The confirming bank may choose to advise amendment without extending its confirmation, and if so, it must inform the issuing bank without delay and inform the beneficiary in its advice. Now, when we add confirmation and then advise the LC, but for the second subsequent amendment, now you don't want to add your confirmation for the amendment. Then that particular thing, you have to inform the issuing bank immediately. Sorry, for the second amendment, we are not going to add our confirmation. And you have to inform the beneficiary accordingly. Right? Right. Now, all these things I have, you can refer Article 9. You can refer Article 9. Right? Article 9. Article 9 talks about advising of credits and amendment. Advising of trades and amendment. All these things what I have mentioned, it is there here. Right? Oglaga omega thino, make a product here one, Kiola. Try to understand. All these things. C, Ikaban, an advising bank may utilize the services of another bank, second advising bank, to advise a credit. Right? And whatever the things, it has to be on the same path. Right? B, by advising the credit or amendment, the advising bank signifies that it has satisfied itself as to the apparent authenticity of the credit. Authenticity at the end. D, the bank utilizing the services of an advising bank or second advising bank to advise a credit must use the same bank to advise any amendment thereto. But I have mentioned issuing bank, Bank of Islam, NDP, matter. Right? All these things are there. Article 9. Right? Okay. Make a product yola. Olage product balaganda apetakang. We'll take a 10 minutes break. Right? You can have a comfort break. You also can. 10:25. We'll be back at 10:35. Right? If you don't want a cup of tea or no comfort, well, it's good. Just go through Article 9. Right? If you have finished Article 9, then read the Article 10 under the amendments, and then we'll have to discuss. After we start, we'll discuss Article 8 and confirming bank's obligations. Right? Okay. 10:35. So have you gone through the Article 9? We've gone through the Article 9, right? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Right, okay, fine. Regarding the Article 9, advising of credits and amendments, I told you in the Article 9, I don't have to again go through the articles. You can read easily and you can refer to my note. In summary, I have given whatever the important ones. Then the Article 10 talks about amendments. Article 10 talks about the LC amendments, how we are advising, right? The same thing, you have to go through the Article 10 also, right? Then we'll go back to Article 8, which talks about confirming LCs or adding confirmation. Adding confirmation. This one, before I explain to you what is confirming bank's undertaking, right? I will just go through with you Article 7. Article 7. Issuing bank's undertaking. When a bank issues the LC, that issuing bank, what is their undertaking? Right? Make a පොඩ්ඩක් කියවන්න කියන මේ word to word ඔළුවට අරගෙනම කියවන්න එපා පස්සේ කියවන්න. කියවන්නම ඕන. හැබැයි ඒක පස්සේ කියවන්න. නිකන් at a glance බලන්න. Provided that the stipulated documents are presented to the nominated bank, blah, blah, blah. Credits is available by side payment, deferred payment acceptance, side payment with මේ ඔබන් තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ මේ නිකන් බලන්න 1 2 3 4 5 5 එකේ negotiation with the nominated bank and that nominated bank does not negotiate. 7A. Then you read 8A, confirming bank undertaking. Same thing there. Same thing. Right? Same thing. So that shows what is a confirming bank. Now let's see what is a confirming bank. I will explain to you. Right. We talk about the confirming bank. Now, this part is the beneficiary's country. So the confirming bank is domiciled in beneficiary's country. Right? Now, when we receive the LC, if the beneficiary of the credit has some doubt about the ability of the DC opening bank, issuing bank, to arrange the reimbursement, he may request the opener to arrange for the DC to be confirmed by the advising bank. Right? So, okay, for example, if you are receiving LC from a bank in Nigeria, Nigerian country, we have a country risk. Nigerian banks are also not reliable. Right? We are not sure whether they will adhere to their promises, even though they promise that they will pay irrevocably. They will give us an irrevocable undertaking to pay. Right? Those are culprits. Right? Twice I have got LCs. Normally, when we received LCs, it says subject to UCP 600 or UCP latest version. Twice I have experience of receiving LCs from Nigerian banks. In small letters, they say it is not subject to UCP 600. Not subject to UCP 600. When we are, per day, we are going through about 100, more than 100 LCs. More than 100 LCs we are going through. So our eyes have been used to see. We don't have time to read the LC word to word. Right? Normally, I have given 3 minutes or 4 minutes to my staff to read the LC. So they are experienced enough. Right? Usually they have, train their eyes to check what are the important things when you are advising LCs. Right? But in a scenario like that, our eyes are used to see subject to UCP 600. They can always be subject to UCP 600 always be but subject kila kala dekka gaman UCP 600 dekka we decide our brain will decide right, okay, subject to UCP 600. But in small letters, they have put in front of subject, not subject to UCP 600. See how cunning people are they? Right? So, in a scenario like that, if you are receiving a LC from Nigeria, the beneficiary is in Sri Lanka. So, we are not sure. Right? Beneficiary is in Sri Lanka. We are exporting tea to Nigeria. So, Nigerian bank has sent us a LC. Now, the beneficiary, because of the country risk and the bank risk of the issuing bank, they will say, no, I don't like, or I don't trust the irrevocable undertaking given by the Nigerian bank. Can't trust it. So because of that, I need this LC to be confirmed by a bank domiciled in my country. Bank domiciled in my country. So they will ask one of the banks domiciled in their country, like HSBC Bank or Standard Chartered Bank, international banks, right? They will say, okay, you add your confirmation. So they are the people who are adding their confirmation. Adding confirmation means they give the same undertaking as per the issuing bank. Like Article 7 and Article 9 right? So the same undertaking given by the issuing bank, the confirming bank also gives the same undertaking. Right? Then the beneficiary is more happy because he's going to get a confirmation from a bank domiciled in his country. If something goes wrong, he will go to HSBC or Standard Chartered or Bank of Ceylon and ask for the money. He can fight. Right? So obviously you have to pay, depending on the risk. It's a big amount, normally about 3%, 2 to 3% confirmation charges. Confirmation charges, right? So that is you call confirming, right? So once the advising bank had confirmation, then that will become the confirming bank. Advising bank will become the confirming bank, right? But if the opener agrees, the opening bank will ask the advising bank to add its confirmation to the DC. But without requesting by the issuing bank, these people cannot, on their own, they can't add confirmation. That request has to come from the issuing bank, right? That request, the issuing bank will get the request through the beneficiary and the applicant. The discussion between those two people, the applicant will, in their LC application, they will say to be confirmed, LC to be confirmed. So when we issue the LC also, we say to be confirmed, right? Confirmation, confirmation means confirming bank also get into the same shoes of the LC issuing bank, same shoes of the LC issuing bank. LC issuing bank in a sapattuvatama ringana confirmation bank, same shoes. Get into the same shoes, right? Api tumu sapattuwa api danne kapita ආරක්ෂාවටනේ. ඊළඟ අපි ඒකට මේසෙකුත් දාලා දැම්මත් මේස් එක නිකන් confirmation of this is okay. ඒකත් තියෙන සපත්තුවක් කියලා. අර තියෙන කොහොම responsibilities confirming bank at confirmation of a DC constitute a definite undertaking by the advising bank to assume the obligations and liabilities of the opening bank under the credit. So when we add confirmation, we undertake the same obligations and responsibilities of the issuing bank. Right? Restrict all negotiation to the confirming bank. When we add confirmation, then we will restrict the negotiation to the confirming bank. Because when we add confirmation, we want to see that we are getting all the documents. Right? Okay, fine. That's a very important thing, right? Confirmed DC provide double protection to the beneficiary. When we add confirmation, that will give a double protection. Beneficiary will give one protection from the issuing bank and another protection by the confirming bank. If the issuing bank doesn't pay, then the confirming bank will pay. Right? A DC can sometimes be confirmed by a bank other than the advising bank. Despite this, the issuing bank must still use the advising bank for advising of any amendments. Right? Even though the confirming bank is another person, advising bank is Bank of Ceylon. This LC was confirmed by HSBC, Colombo, but any subsequent amendments and all should go through the same path, Bank of Ceylon to HSBC. Right? Okay. Anything you want to get clarified on confirming banks and adding confirmation? Is very, very important. Article 8. Article 8. So you have to read Article 7, 8, 9, 10, which I have given the summary. Okay. Then what to do when LC arrives? What to do when LC arrives? When the advising bank receives the LC, a beneficiary, not the advising bank, a beneficiary. When the beneficiary receives an LC through the advising bank, they have to read the letter of credit very carefully, word to word, they have to read. Right? Not the advising bank. They don't have that obligation, but if you are adding confirmation, you have that obligation, right? Then ensure you can comply with the terms. All 20 points. Then normally the beneficiary will send a copy of LCs to the freight forwarder for them to book the freight. Right? Ask about anything you don't understand. You have to ask your advising bank, right? Or they will clarify it for you. Either they will contact the issuing bank or they will give the clarification. If incorrect, reject the LC immediately. If incorrect, reject the LC immediately. If necessary, request the buyer amend the necessary by the letter of credit. And if necessary, you can ask your other counterparty, the buyer, to instruct their bank and waiting for an amendment. Waiting for an amendment. Right? Then we had to talk about another technical thing on LCs, availability of LC. Availability of LC. Right? Normally the DC contain specific clauses regarding their availability. Right? At which bank the beneficiary should present the documents in order for the credit to be paid. Right? How the beneficiary will get the funds. How the beneficiary will get the funds. Those things we have to see. And where is the credit available? It can be available at the counters of either the issuing bank or the nominated bank or on any negotiating bank. Sometimes you get LCs nominated to a particular bank for negotiation. Otherwise, you will say negotiation with any bank. If you say negotiation with any bank, any commercial bank who are doing international trade operations, you can go to any bank and do it. But if you have been nominated a bank, then you have to go to that particular bank. Right? But whether the nominated bank or negotiation bank has not given the value, who is the ultimate paying bank? Ultimate paying bank. කවුරු දෙන්න බැහැකුවත් අම්මා තාත්තා වගේ ළමයින්ට සලකන්නේ කවුද? Ultimate paying bank.
Issuing bank.
Issuing bank. Issuing bank. Right? Now we'll see how is the credit available. There can be few ways the credit can be available. Right? It can be availability. Availability can be either payment, either by payment or by acceptance, by payment, by acceptance, or by negotiation. or by negotiation. Now, when it comes to by payment, then this DC could be made available by either site it can be either site payment or deferred payment. Deferred payment. Site can at site immediately. Deferred means on a future date, agreed future date. Right? A site payment should be made on demand as the terms of payment are immediate. On demand. Right? Article 12 of UCP 600, it says nominated bank does not necessarily have to accept its nomination by the issuing bank. Article 12 says that a nominated bank in the issuing bank will nominate Bank of Ceylon as a negotiating bank. They have nominated bank. They said, okay, in exporters country, Bank of Ceylon is the nominated bank. But if Bank of Ceylon doesn't want, they don't want to accept that invitation. No. Right? They will say, no, we don't want to be the nominated bank. Because if they are not happy with the issuing bank, then the credits also on the side, the credit may or may not require drafts to be presented. Right? Now, under side LCs, draft is not a must, or a bill of exchange is not a must. Because once you accept the bill of exchange, then you deliver the documents, and on a future date, if you don't pay, then that will be the financial instrument to go for litigation. Now here, if you are paying immediately, there's no point of having a bill of exchange. Some banks I know, they are making a big fuss saying that, oh, bill of exchange is not there, so we can't pay. Site, not necessary. If the customer is prepared to pay, what is the exporter wants? He wants the money. What exporter wants is money. If the customer is prepared to pay the money, but then we are going behind the bill of exchange. But if the exporter is going to get money on a future date, then we have a problem. Then we have to have a document accepted, that is, bill of exchange accepted. Right? Now the deferred payment is outside. We can say bill of exchange, not a must. Make a maybe the another Padanga lazy. Site bill of exchange, not a must. Then deferred payment, terms and conditions of a credit issued on deferred payment are, payment is not immediate, so it will be on a future date. Payment is at a time in the future determinable in accordance with the credit, and a draft is not required to be presented. Bill of exchange, not required. Bill of exchange not required. Deferred payment के bill of exchange गन्ने में नहीं, right? Bill of exchange not required. Okay, but the payment will be on a future date, which has been agreed by the LC. Then by acceptance, same as deferred payment, right? Payment is not immediate. Drafts are required to be presented. Draft a must. Bill of exchange must. Bill of exchange is a must. Right? So, Nadudana make it. Then payment is on the maturity date of the draft. Acceptance credit provide a means by which the beneficiary may be able to obtain finance by discounting the bank acceptance. Now, once the beneficiary, once the buyer accept the bill of exchange, so that means under a letter of credit, the issuing bank is irrevocably bound to pay on the due date. So the beneficiary's bank can discount that particular bill. Once it is accepted and once the issuing bank confirms that they have accepted the bill of exchange, fine. By negotiation has been defined in Article 2 of UCP 600. Please read definitions under Article 2. They have given all the definitions. Those definitions are sometimes will be tested by the examiner. Like what do you mean by negotiation? What do you mean by banking date and blah, 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 everything. You have to read and understand. Right? Asset, Nagla Kandapa, a credit available by negotiation should be indicate either a nominated bank is authorized to negotiate or a credit which is freely negotiable, in which case any bank is nominated bank. If the credit is freely negotiable, it is available with any bank. It is available with any bank. Right? The drafts are drawn on the issuing bank at site or users. If you are negotiating, always the drafts has to be drawn on the issuing bank at site or users. Last week I showed you samples of drafts. ඒවා තිබුණේ දැක්කනේ බැංක් එකට තමයි draw කරලා තිබුණේ. Right? Then handling of discrepant documents. Handling of discrepant documents presented by beneficiary. Handling of discrepant documents presented by beneficiary. Handling of discrepant documents presented by beneficiary. What do you mean by discrepant documents? Discrepant documents. When you present the documents, if the documents are not complied with the terms and conditions of the LC, then they are discrepant. Right? Normally, then we can't negotiate. The negotiating bank will not negotiate because those are wrong, discrepant. Even the issuing bank will not pay on discrepant documents because they have given an irrevocable undertaking. They have given an irrevocable undertaking that they will pay if the documents are complied with the terms and conditions of the LC. If not, they are not paying. It's a conditional undertaking. Is it clear? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now, if there's a discrepant document, on that, Right. Now the beneficiary he will submit the documents to the negotiating bank. They will submit the documents to the negotiating bank. And if the documents are clean, they will pay. Right? They will pay if compliant. They will pay if compliant. If not, no. Right? So, in a situation like this, a negotiating bank, that is beneficiary's bank, what they will do, they will return the documents back to the beneficiary, saying that they have checked and they have found the discrepancies. They will return the documents to the beneficiary, asking them to correct it. But they have to correct it and submit the documents as per the during the validity period of the LC, as per Article 14C. Right? During the validity of the LC, they have to submit the documents back. Right? They are important. If not, if discrepant, still they couldn't correct the thing, we can send the documents to the issuing bank under approval. We can send the documents to the issuing bank under approval. Approval can, if this given, revision bank we are sending on approval basis. We have not negotiated approval basis. You better go through it, and if you see it is, you can pay, or even the buyer is prepared to accept the discrepancies, please pay us on approval. Right? That is one. Under approval. Or they can have another option, option B, right? Telex approval. They can have another option, telex approval to the issuing bank. Telex approvals in the sense, the negotiating bank has checked the document, they have found the particular discrepancies. They will list down the discrepancies and send a telex to issuing bank saying that we found these particular discrepancies in this set of documents. Can we negotiate? Then the issuing bank will check with the buyer. Then the buyer will tell you, yes. In fact, exporter told me there are certain discrepancies, and I will accept those discrepancies once it comes to me. Then issuing bank will say, yes, the buyer has given their consent to this discrepancies. Because even though these people are given an irrevocable undertaking, they give it on a conditional basis. If the documents are clean, if not, if discrepant, they will not pay. Now we have to see the remedial action, right? The direction. The risk you can identify here is, okay, telex approval, we will say, we have got the telex approval for 3 discrepancies. But when the issuing bank receives the LC documents, when they check, they found 5 discrepancies. Other than, but they have given the telex approval. Then it is a discrepant document. Then it's a discrepant document. So if we are asking for telex approval, we have to check it thoroughly, and we have to give full all the discrepancies, not 1 or 2. Right? Okay. Otherwise, negotiate under reserves or indemnity from the beneficiary. Or else, if the negotiating bank, if the beneficiary is insisting that they want money, the third option is under indemnity. Negotiate under indemnity. See. Negotiate under indemnity. Negotiate under indemnity means the beneficiary will give the negotiating bank an indemnity. Okay, you don't worry, you do it. My counterparty will accept it. But anyway, if something goes wrong, I'm prepared to pay. They will indemnify the bank, right? So it is something like that. Letters of credit as a financing tool. The protection afforded to both parties in a letter of credit transaction provide each additional benefit as well, right? One of these is the ability to use the credit already evidenced by the letter of credit itself to lower trade cycle cash flow financing cost for both buyer and seller. So that means letter of credit is a very good financing tool because we are trying to mitigate the risk as possible, right? As much as possible, and then once we advance the money to the beneficiary, if we manage to supply compliant document, that will ease his cash flow issues. You don't have to wait for months and months and months to get the money, right? He can improve his cash flow financing cost, right? Okay. I think I have covered whatever necessary for non-trade banking officers. Non-trade banking officers. I'm not gone into detail, but you are required to study UCP 600 also, like URC 522. You will be tested with the UCP 600. There's a permanent 1 question, 20 marks question, right? If you need, if you are going to answer the questions, and if you can give cross-reference to certain UCP articles, then you will get the full marks. But if you don't remember, the exact UCP article, but you know the summary of it, that you can remember, yeah, it was there, something like this was there, then best thing is don't say as per Article 17, Article 18. Make Article 32 ගැන කතා කරලා වෙන්න ඕනේ. නමුත් ඔයා දානවා මට මතකයි හැබැයි හරියටම ආටිකල් එක මතක නැහැ කියලා. ගන්න article as per Article 18. Article 18 is completely different. මේ invoices ගැන කතා කරනවා. මේවා වෙන එකක් ගැන කතා කරනවා. ඒකට අපිට අහු වෙනවා ඔයා බොරුව කරන්නේ කියලා. ඉතින් එහාට බින්දුව. find තියෙන හොඳම ක්‍රමය තමයි හොරපාර තමයි. ඒකනේ ඔයගලන්ට ඕනේ නේද? ඔයගලන්ට ඕනේ හොරපාරවල නේද? කොහෙන්ද මේ ලේසින් find පුළුවන් ක්‍රමය? පුළුවන් නම් exact article එක ලියන්න පුළුවන් නම් excellent. හරියටම article එක මතක නැත්නම් ලියන්න එපා බොරු article numbers. Then it will be irrelevant. In a scenario like that, what you can say is, as per UCP 600, as per the articles of UCP 600, and sure that, right? Then, in other words, you are telling me to find my own answer. There not. ඔගොල්ලෝ මට තල්ලු කරනවා බෝලේ as per the survey knowledge එකක් තියෙනවද කියලා බලන්න. As per the UCP 600 articles of UCP 600 මේ කියන්නේ ඔය අසල උත්තරේ දෙනවා. උත්තරේ හරි. ඒ වැරදි ආටිකල් එක ලියනකොට තව හොඳයි. ඒ වගේ පොඩි camouflage එකක් කරලා shape වෙන එක. ඒක ලියන්න පුළුවන් නම් definitely you will get more additional marks. Right? So because of that, please read the articles. Right? අපි කතා කරමු පොඩ්ඩක් articles අද දවසේ තියෙනවා ඒ වෙලාව ඒ ටිකේදී අපි තව පුළුවන් තරම් articles ටික බලමු. Right. Before that, we'll discuss about some questions. Answer the question number 1. Answer the question number 1. Which of these concerns of a buyer can be addressed by appropriate terms and conditions in a letter of credit? Buyer has certain concerns. So he wants to address his concerns by putting certain terms and conditions in the LC. Right? Tell me whether yes or no. A, goods are insured adequately. Can we put a term or condition in the letter of credit to ensure that goods are adequately insured? See whether this one, that's the application again. දාලා හොයන්න පුළුවන්ද? ඒක ටික් කරා නම් හරි නේද? ඒක ටික් කරා නම් හරි නේද? Marine air insurance policy of certificate for the value plus 10% covering institute card clause. Right? Institute card clause is for fully insured. Right? CIF value plus 10%. CIF value plus 10%. Right? CIF value plus 10%. එතකොට අපි දන්නවා වැඩිපුරත් අපි ඉන්ෂුරන්ස් එකෙන් කවර් කරලා තියෙනවා. Right? Okay? Right. එහෙමනම් what do you think about this one? A, is it yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. How we can cover with the proper insurance policy, right? Okay. Goods are of acceptable quality. That is one of the buyer's concern. How we are going to cover that? Can we cover?
No.
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 No. Anybody else? Goods of acceptable quality.
By inspection certificate?
Yes. Very good. Very good. What's your name, Buddha?
Dilusha.
Niresha. Niresha. We can ask for a inspection. Name the inspection is gonna quality certificate. If you ask for a quality certificate, yes, we can do it. So the answer is yes. Goods are dispatched on time.
Yes.
Yes. How? How?
By putting a latest shipment date.
Yes. Perfect. Right? 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 We can mention the latest shipment date. The goods are delivered on time. Goods are delivered on time. Goods are delivered on time. Yes or no? Huh?
I think no.
Yes, it is no. අපිට ෂුවර් කරන්න බෑ මොනවාද මේ ලෝකෙ වෙන දේවල් මේ හරියට දවසට එයිද නැද්ද කියන එක. Right? ඒක no. Right. What is the first step in the letter of trade process? Give me the answer.
Answer C.
Yes, answer is answer C. Buyer and seller agree details of transaction. Right? That's the most important thing. Number 1. 3. Article 8 එක පොඩ්ඩක් කියවලා ගන්නනවා. මේක common sense කරන්නත් පුළුවන්.
Bank A will receive a documentary credit.
Bank A will receive a documentary credit opened by Bank B. So Bank B is the issuing bank. Bank A is the advising bank. Right? Confirmation instructions confirm. So then they will become confirming bank. Bank A is not prepared to add their confirmation to the documentary credit. But the Bank A, they don't want to add their confirmation to the documentary credit. Which of the following should be Bank A section? Which of the following should be Bank A's section? Tell me the correct answer, A, B, C, or D.
Answer B.
A, B, C, D. B can number 2 can.
Yes, sir.
Right. Any other answers? Read it carefully and read the article 8 also, if possible, if you can get some.
D. Answer D.
This one.
Answer B.
D.
Answer D.
That means number 4.
Number 4.
B. You said B. Earlier, somebody told me B. Right? Then, any other?
Answer D.
B කියන්නේ දෙකද හතරද?
4. 4.
4.
4. මොකද වෙන්න පුළුවන්?
Answer C.
Confirming banks undertaking. Right?
C.
Then here it says
Number 3. Answer C.
a confirming bank is irregular bound to honor D. If a bank is authorized or requested, number 1, if a bank is authorized or requested by the issuing bank to confirm a credit, but is not prepared to do so, make another question again, right? It must inform the issuing bank without delay and may advise a credit without confirmation. And may advise the credit without confirmation. Okay? Understood? Right. Now we'll go back to the question. Now what's the correct answer?
C.
Answer is?
C.
Answer is C. Now you understand, right? See the importance of reading the UCP 600. මේවා තමයි ඔයගොල්ලන්ට එන questions. මම මේ දන්නවනේ ඒක question එකක් කරනවා multiple choice. Question number 1. Either you can do it or you can whenever මම ඒක compulsory. ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ exam එකේ මම compulsory කරන්නේ නැහැ. හැබැයි ඉතින් multiple එකෙන් ගොඩ යන එක තමයි හොඳම එක. ඒක ඉස්සෙන් 14ක්වත් ගන්න පුළුවන් නම් 10 questions වලින් උගල ගොඩ යනවා. right? සුච්චර ලිව්වත් ඒක ගන්න බෑ. ඒකේ ප්‍රමාණයක්. ඒකෙන්ද ඔක පොඩක් බලන්න. But for that you have to read and understand the UCP 600. So the correct answer is C. What do you understand by the term negotiation? What do you understand by the term negotiation? Negotiation is giving value කියලා මම කිව්වා. ඒක මෙතන බලන්න පුළුවන් ඔයගන්ට මම කියන්නේ යවන්නේ කියලා Article 2 definitions. Article 2 definitions. The definitions were very clearly, the definitions are very important. That can questions වල අපිට ගන්න වෙනවා. ඒක බලන්න negotiation කියන මොකක්ද කියලා. ඉතින් negotiation. Negotiation means the purchase by the nominated bank of drafts drawn on a bank other than the nominated bank and or documents under a compliant presentation by advancing or agreeing to advance funds to the beneficiary on or before the banking day on which reimbursement is due to the nominated bank. Right? Vertical බලන්න definitions see බලන්න ටග්ගාලා හරි. This one. What is the answer? Read and answer.
D.
A, B, C, D. 1, 2, 3, 4 කියලා ගත්තොත්. B, D ඔක්කොම එක වගේ මට ඇහෙන්නේ.
Fourth one.
In UK are shipping farm machinery.
What?
Agrotech in UK are shipping farm machinery value GBP 100,000 to a new customer in France. A new customer in France. That's very important. And value is also very high, GBP 100,000. Right? We don't have any previous what do you call this relationship with the France customer. The buyers are not willing to pay in advance. The buyers are not willing to pay in advance. Right? Then, of the remaining payment methods, which do you think Agrotech would prefer? Now, customer
High risk.
Huh?
High risk.
High risk, yes, high risk. Then, what should be? A,
D.
B, C, or D?
D. Either B or C.
C.
Fourth one.
Four. Any other answers? Any other answers?
Answer C.
Why you said C? B? Huh?
C.
Answer C, sir.
What is the answer? Answer C. C means 3. Letter of credit. Yes, that's the correct answer. Not the D. Right? While past papers to mama question right? Why you said D? B or B document correction the bank is not giving any undertaking. Payment, no payment undertaking. And are you going to take a risk on that with this new customer? He is not willing to pay in advance. Right? Document collection. I will go for my security, that is letter of credit. Answer is C. Right? The band lazy complicated answers. Right. Anyway, I have another 50 minutes. I think I can cover some of the articles with you, right? And I have already given another document, a summary of UCP 600, right? You can take a printout and you can keep this as a summary, right, for you to use, right? Make a article 1, 2 and summary form again. ඉස්සර මම මේකේ කරලා ඉන්නම් මේ article 1 අපි කළා 2 එක අපි කරන්න වෙනවා, right? Right, definitions. For the purpose of these rules, advising bank means the bank that advises the credit at the request of the issuing bank. That you know very well. Applicant means the party on whose request the credit is issued. That also no issue. Banking day. Banking day means a day on which a bank is regularly open at the place at which an act subject to these rules is to be performed. Now, for example, if the the LC expire. LC expire on 1st August 2021. 1st August 2021. That is today. LC expire on 1st August 2021. So you have to submit the documents on or before 1/8/2021. Now, how can they? This particular day? Is it normally, generally? Is it a regularly open day? 1/8/2021. Is it a regularly opening day of a bank? The banking day got it. Is it regularly open?
No, sir.
No.
No. Is it? No. Sampathekam BOC allada.
නෑ සර්.
Sampathekam BOC එකත් වහලා. Right? එතකොට in a scenario like that, we can submit the documents on the first following banking day. First following banking day. So if we submit the documents on 2/8/21, then it is correct. We don't quote it as a discrepancy. And then LC expired here. Now make a banking day, it falls on a banking holiday. Falls on a banking holiday. Right? Okay. So the banking day means a day on which the bank is regularly open for business. Right? Beneficiary means the party in whose favor the credit is open. Compliant presentation. Compliant presentation means a presentation that is in accordance with the terms and conditions of the credit. Repeatedly I have mentioned that. Right? Confirmation means a definite undertaking of the confirming bank, in addition to that of the issuing bank, to honor or negotiate the compliant presentation. See, may definitions they will notes on that. Right? Confirming bank means the bank that adds its confirmation to a credit upon the issuing bank's authorization or request. Very important. Upon the issuing bank's authorization. Upon the issuing bank's authorization or request. Otherwise, you will not add confirmation. Right? I got silent confirmation, but we don't encourage adding silent confirmation. Credit means any arrangements, however named or described, that is irrevocable and thereby constitute a definite undertaking. Credit kilagane naya neme naya vara. Letter of credit. Honor means to pay at sight if the credit is available by sight payment. Right? To incur a deferred payment undertaking, to pay at maturity if the credit is available by deferred payment. Or to accept a bill of exchange draft drawn by the beneficiary and pay at maturity if the credit is available by acceptance. Right? That is honor. Issuing bank means the bank that issues the credit at the request of the applicant or on its own behalf. applicant නැතුව හරි අරින්නත් පුළුවන් බැංකුවට. ඒ බැංකුවට මොනවද බඩු කියනවනේ. Negotiation means purchase or giving value මම ඒක explain කළා. මේක හරි important විතරම එනවා. Nominated bank means the bank with which the credit is available, or any bank in the case of a credit available with any bank. Presentation means either the delivery of documents under a credit to the issuing bank or nominated bank, or the documents so delivered. Can you give me 1 minute? My mother is calling. Sorry, today many calls are coming. All are asking the same questions. Can you imagine? It's a common to everybody. My friends, my mother, my uncle, all are asking the same question. මොකද්ද question එක කියලා අහන්න පුළුවන් හිතන්න පුළුවන්. Common questions to both of us in the Western province.
Regarding the vaccination?
The vaccination.
AstraZeneca.
AstraZeneca දෙක ගහගත්තද? අම්මා තාන අනේ පුතේ දෙක ගහගත්තද? ඒක තමයි තියෙන්නේ. right? මම බිල දෙකින් දිගට අහනන ඔක්කොම ඉන්නේ AstraZeneca දෙක ගහගත්තද? right. ඔයගොල්ලෝ ගහගෙන දින්නේ? second එක.
Yes, sir. Not yet.
Not yet. You first one you had AstraZeneca?
Yes, sir.
Sinopharm, no issue. Sinopharm, you can get. AstraZeneca, my first one was in 4th March. After 18 weeks, last Sunday, after the class, Sunday I lectured you. While lecturing, I got a call from one of my niece and asked me whether I wanted to get the thing done. Immediately, she said to come. After the class, I went there, got it done at United Nations. They have got a special stock for their staff. Luckily, I got a bonus. Today, I think they have started at Viharamadeva Park, and some hospitals, it was really misleading. I watched the TV news in the morning. They said they gave some hospitals in my area, of Gampa, Karania, everything. But still, they have not started, no plans. Wrong information. This television, media, and papers are giving. Right. The first possible chance ඔබ ගිල ගහගන්න නැත්නම් දෙදා මේ පරත් නැතිලා ඊට පස්සේ presentation means either a delivery of documents under a credit to the issuing bank or nominated bank, or the documents so delivered. Presenter means the beneficiary, bank or other party that makes the presentation. So these are common definitions coming under UCP 600, right? So when you are reading further, before that, you have to have some common understanding of the definitions, right? Because hereafter we are going to talk about nominated bank, presentation, presenter, honor, issuing bank, negotiation, confirming bank. We are using those terms. So that's why we are given the definitions, right? And Article 3 also these interpretations, right? For the purpose of these rules, there are certain interpretations, and I just want to show you the summary we have prepared, right? It is very, very useful to you. The Araga ko mankiwane, the make a short note tag, okay? Pardon කරන්න විතරක් හැබැයි ලියනකොට අරක ලියන්න ඕන. මේක පාඩම් කරන්න මතක තියන්න. Article 2 gives the definitions of terminology used throughout the rules. In addition to the definitions of the parties involved, which are outlined above, the following terms are defined. Banking day is the day on which the bank is regularly open in the place of blah, blah, blah. Very simple. Compliant presentation is a presentation of documents that is in accordance with the terms and conditions of the credit. Right? Then confirmation is confirmation is a definite undertaking of the confirming bank to honor or negotiate a compliant presentation. Right? Credit is any irrevocable arrangements. Honor can mean to pay at sight, right? To incur a deferred payment or acceptance. Negotiation, vertical. Then presentation. Presenter means a beneficiary, bank or other party makes a presentation. Summary form, right? Then Article 3 also gives a list of interpretations, right? Certain interpretations, so that also better go through it, right? May articles, there are 39 articles, like what you are trying to, what I told you last week, URC 522. Now, if you have started URC 522, last 7 days, you would have easily covered 14 articles. I don't know how many articles you have covered. I told you, I gave you a warning signal. If you don't, in that race, a relay ke, start එක අරන් තිබුණ නැත්නම් දැන් හිර වෙනවා. දැන් බැටන් දෙකක් අතේ අරන් දුවන්න වෙනවා. URC 522 and UCP 600. Right? You are having 2 buttons. Now, from today, you have to do, right? In the morning, as you get up or before breakfast, URC. After dinner, UCP. You get them and padang කරන්න වෙන්නේ. කෑමෙන් පෙරද කෑමෙන් පස්සේද කියලා මම ඔයගොල්ලෝ හදාගන්න. ඕක දැන් දිගටම යන්න වෙනවා. We have 12 classes. It's a pretty කාලයක් තියෙන්නේ. You have to read at least 2 or 3 times these 2 articles. Right? How you are going to do it is up to you. Your elderly people, right? So plan it. I know you will start regarding me, Sanang Kiai, අපිට ගෙවල් කොච්චර වැඩ තියෙනවද ළමයින්ගේ වැඩ තියෙනවා ඒ ළමයි හොදන්න ඕන නාවන්න ඕන මේ දෙට ඇදගෙන වැටෙන්න ඕන උදේට ඉස්සලා මේ කැම ටික හදන්න ඕන ඒක පාසල් කරලා දෙන්න ඕන හස්බන්ඩ්ටත් දෙන්න ඕන එයාත් බබා වගේ ඔක්කොම දැන් ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා මම මොනවා කරන්නද පුතේ ඉතින් පටන් ගත්තා නම් මේ කෙරවලක් දකින්නම ඕන ඉතින් මහන්සි වෙන්න වෙනවා right okay Article 4, make a read Karnaban. Article 4, credit versus contracts. Article 4, credits versus contracts. I told you, credits are that LC is different from the contract between the buyer and the seller. right? Therefore, we are not, as a bank, we are not bothered about the contract between the buyer and the seller. We are only bothered about the terms and conditions of the LC. We are not bothered about the terms and conditions of the sales contract between the buyer and the seller, right? And sometimes the customers will come to you via branches. Dineshi, ඔගලන්ගේ branch එකට තමුත් එක්කම ඇවිල්ලා customer කෙනෙක් අහිංසක මිනිස්සෙක්, right? අහිංසකයි කියලා අපි හිතන මිනිස්සු. ඒ අහිංසක නෑ, customers ලා අහිංසක නෑ. They will come and tell you, Miss, මගේ LC application එකක් තියෙනවා. Then he will submit the LC application along with the pro forma invoice, right? Then, while you are going through the LC application, can you remember the 20 points what I told you? What you are trying to do is, as a true banker, now you are not going to do anything, but before you send the application to the head office, Trade Finance Department, right? Bank of Ceylon, Trade Finance Department, you want to send a perfect one. Perfect one. එතකොට තමයි trade finance heads la, imports managers la, they start talking about you, right? තමුත් ඒකෙන් මොන හරි එනවා නම් බයන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. ගාන්ට චෙක් කරලා එන්නේ. ඉනිෂි චෙක් කරලා එන්නේ. මම අනන්ත කියලා දෙනවා. When I was working in local banks, so අපි branches වලට වැඩ කරද්දී මේ head office වැඩ කරද්දී අපි දන්නා කොහෙන් හරි මේ කුරුණෑගලින් එනවා එක්කවත් අපි කියනවා කුරුණෑගලින් බලන්න දෙයක් නැහැ, මම ඔක්කොම බලලා එවන්නේ, right? අපි දුමු කලුතර branch එක කියලා. Oh my god, පොඩ්ඩක් ඔක හොඳට හොයලා බලන්න මේක මොනවද ඒවලත් දන්නේ නැහැ. අපි ඒක කියනවානේ. ඉතින් ඒකෙන්ද අපිට දෙන්නේ අර විදිහට බලන්න. While we are checking, while we are just going through, the customer is sitting in front of you. He will tell you, Miss, පොඩි ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා මිස්, පොඩ්ඩක් මට කියලා දෙනවද? එහෙම කිව්ව ගමන් අපේ බැංකස්ලා මොකද කරන්නේ? නගිනවා ගහේ මුදුනටමනේ. මම කියන්නේ one day you are going to be the managers, or I don't know whether you are already manager or system manager or a credit officer or a PFC, මම දන්නේ, right? But one day you are climbing up in this ladder. ඔහොම කිව්ව ගමන් අපේ බැංකස්ලා මොකද කරන්නේ? ගහේ නගින්නේ. එයා හිතනවා හරි. Now this guy is telling me to give him some advice. Even though you are not an experienced trade banker, right? You know only 1% of international trade. You know only 1% of international trade. You will try to be the maestro. Then he will show you the contract between, sales contract between himself and the other party, buyer and the seller. අහලා ඒක ඇතුළේ තියෙන condition එකක් ගැන වගේම clarification එකක් අහනවා. Right? කොයිම වෙලාවකවත් ඒ වගේ දෙයකට advice දෙන්න යන්න එපා. අපේ ගොඩක් කට්ටිය කරන මේක වැරද්දක්. They want to be the best people, knowledgeable people, and they give the okay if you have given the correct advice, but 90% of the time you give the wrong advice because you also doesn't know the topic perfectly, right? If something goes wrong, if he is not paying the bank, he will drag you also into the case. He will say, I have discussed this matter with so and so on such and such a day. Recording එකත් තියාගෙන ඉන්නේ. මේ voice record එකකුත් ළඟ තියාගෙන අහනවා කියනවා. අන්තිමට අපි අහක ඉඳලා කොනකට ගෑවෙනවා. ඔයගන්ට තේරෙනවද ඒක? Right? ඒකෙන්ද කොහෙවත් don't get involved. An issuing bank should discourage any attempt by the applicant to include as an ඒක වෙනම කතාවක්. අරක මීට් වෙන්න එපා. ප්‍රැක්ටිකලි මම කියන්නේ ඒව ඩිස්කස් කරන්න එපා. ඔයා කියන්නේ කරුණාකරලා ඒ ටික අපිට අදාළ නැහැ. That you have to sort it out with your counterpart. Right? Okay. Number 5, documents versus goods and services performance. Banks deal with documents and not with the goods. Make up availability, expiry date and place for presentation. But also we have done few availability in the Article 6 again, right? The expiry date whether on a place of presentation. Which place? Whether it's at the counters of negotiating bank, expiry is at the counters of the negotiating bank, or at the counters of the issuing bank, right? Article 7, issuing bank undertaking. Article 7, issuing bank undertaking, which I have discussed with you, right? Make a kiola balana. Article 8 is a confirming bank's undertaking. It's like a mirror image of issuing bank. It's like a mirror image of issuing bank. එකක් හරියට තියාගත්තොත් අනිත් එකත් ඒකම තමයි එන්නේ. Right? Then Article 9, advising of credit and amendments, that also we have done. Right? Amendments also we have done. Article 11 is you have to read. I'm just going through, right? Teletransmitted and pre-advised credits and amendments. Don't worry about it. We will never ask questions from you guys on Article 11, right? Nomination, right? Nomination, unless the nominated bank is the confirming bank and authorized. This also I have explained to you, and in my note also I have given a cross-reference to Article 12, right? If you have been nominated as a nominated bank, I'm just going to give a nominated bank, then what they will do, right? When they Article 12C, when they receive the documents, they will do examination and forwarding the documents by a nominated bank. That is not a confirming bank, but they are not obliged to negotiate the documents. Nominated now, even though you have been nominated as a negotiating bank, nobody can pressurize you to negotiate the documents, right? Then this in the summary, right? Article 4, Article 5, Article 7 issuing banks undertaking. Article 8 looks at the undertaking of the confirming bank, right? The confirming bank gives a similar undertaking to the beneficiary as that of the issuing bank, right? Article 9 gives detail on the advising of credit right? Article 10. 11 12 Article 13 bank to bank reimbursement. What do you mean by bank to bank reimbursement? Bank to bank reimbursement. I will explain to you. Now, when we open the LC, and when we advise the LC to the nominated bank, issuing bank, advise LC to nominated bank. Nominated bank. And we have nominated them to negotiate the LC. Right? In the LC, we say to the nominated bank, when they negotiate the LC, right? Either they have to send the documents to the issuing bank, so the issuing bank will send they will also check and they will send the money, the proceeds. But if the nominated bank finds that the LC is compliant with the terms and conditions of the LC, or the conditions are, and the documents are compliant with the terms and conditions of the LC, they can pay. They can negotiate. Right? But when they pay the customer, they are out of funds until they get the money from the issuing bank. They are out of funds. But if we claim reimbursement from a reimbursing bank, a third bank, then they will get the money immediately. Now, there is another bank called reimbursing bank. Reimbursing bank. Normally, we say issuing bank is BOT. They are the people who has issued the LC. They have advised the LC to Standard Chartered Bank, Dubai. That is whose bank? SCB Dubai is whose bank? Buyer or seller?
Exporters.
Huh?
Exporters.
Exporters bank. That is seller's bank, exporters bank. Reimbursing bank, Bank of Ceylon is doing their Nostro account, Bank of Ceylon Nostro account, they are maintaining with Standard Chartered Bank, New York. Your dollar account, you will be maintaining with SCB New York. Bank of Ceylon doesn't have any branches in New York, so that is their correspondent bank. Right? So when the issuing bank issues the LC, when the issuing bank issues the LC, at the same time, if they want to give reimbursement authority, they will give instructions to the reimbursing bank. They will give instructions to the reimbursing bank. Okay. If you get a claim from the nominated bank, SCB Dubai, please pay. Please pay. Right? So we call it reimbursement authorization. Reimbursement authorization. They send a telex, MT740 to reimbursing bank in New York. They give the LC number and everything. Right. Then the nominated bank the nominated bank, when they negotiate the documents, right, they will see documents are clean, complied with the terms and conditions of the EC. So they don't have to wait till the money is getting from the issuing bank. They will send their reimbursement claim. They will send their reimbursement claim. And this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. They will send the reimbursement claim to the reimbursing bank, right? The authenticated telex. So once they receive the reimbursing, once the reimbursing bank receives the reimbursement claim, if it is matching with the reimbursement authority given by the issuing bank, then they will pay. Right? Pay. Then they will pay. Reimbursing bank is having the roster account of issuing bank. Reimbursing bank is having the roster account of issuing bank. So what they will do is they will debit, they will as bankers for your information, right? We debit reimbursing bank, SCB, New York, right? And credit nominated bank. And credit nominated bank. Right? So it is the reimbursement in bank to bank reimbursement. When we give the reimbursement of authorization, normally we don't put a value date or expiry dates for the banks in material. If we get a claim, we will pay reimbursing bank. Right? So it's a very risky thing. That is why normally the issuing bank will give reimbursement authority only for good customers and good banks only. Right? Article 14 is very, very important. Put a strict and study carefully. That is standard for examination of document. Standard for examination of documents. Right? If time permits, I will do little bit of when we are discussing about the checking of documents, right? Then Article 14 is very, very important. Because when the nominated bank, when they are getting the documents from the beneficiary, again, when the issuing bank, when they are getting the documents from the nominated bank, right? Both start checking the documents, along with the LC. And they want to know whether the documents are compliant with the terms and conditions of the LC. So both parties, nominated bank as well as issuing bank, they are check. If check කරන්න එහෙම තිබ්බොත් අපිට කොච්චර කාලයක් check කරගෙන ඉන්න වේද? කොච්චර කාලයක් check කරගෙන ඉන්න වේද? ඒක තමයි article 14B එකේ කියන්නේ. When these people are getting the documents, nominated bank, they have 5 banking days to check the documents. 5 banking days. Article 14B, 5 banking days. Right? And within that 5 banking days, they have to check. And then they will submit the documents to the issuing bank. Issuing bank also has 5 banking days time for them to check the document. Right? That doesn't mean that මෙතන 5යි කුලේකේ යන්න තව දවස් 3යි තව තව මෙතන දවස් 5යි 13ක් හරියටම යනවායි කියලා. It's maximum. Right? Maximum. හැබැයි සමහර කස්ටමර්ස් ලා මේක ඒව ටිකක් දැනගෙන බැංක්ස් වලට බුලි කරනවා. They says no, don't pay. You have 5 days, 5 banking days. That 5 banking days is for us, nothing to do with the customer. Right? Customer අපිට UCP ගන්න දෙනවා සමහර customers ලා. මගේ නම් හොඳට අහගන්නවා. C. Transport documents 19 to 25 we are doing. I'm going to do that under when we are doing the supply chain management. Just see, right? I will ask one of these, if possible, I'll see whether I can get another external resource person. Always they are helping us in specialized areas like supply chain management and all. Let's see, right? Otherwise, I will do it to discuss about the Article 19 to 25 transport documents. What they says is Article E. It says in documents other than the commercial invoice, the description of goods, services, or performance, if stated, may be in general terms, not conflicting with other with their description in the credit. Right? It can be in general terms, but in the commercial invoice, you have to give the full detailed listing. Otherwise, it can be in general terms. Now, for example, in the but it should not contradict with the definitions, right? අපි මෙහෙම එකක් ගත්තොත් එහෙම උගන්න තියෙනවා නේ. අවිල්ලා LC එකේ තියෙනවා description of goods as per LC. As per LC, description of goods is 1,000 numbers of 1,000 numbers of toy guns. 1,000 numbers of toy guns. Sellam pistol. Particular sellam kale. Commercial invoice again. දාලා තියෙනවා same 1,000 numbers of toy guns. Correct. In the bill of lading, BL again. ලියලා තියෙනවා toys කියලා. Is it correct or wrong? Is it correct or wrong? Is it correct or wrong? See the Article E. Oh, lamai something like that. Kata කරන්න ඕන. Adi වැරදි ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෑ. මාත් එක්ක ආගේ කරන්නේ. Is it correct? BL එකේ toys කියලා තිබ්බම ඇද්ද? Is it it's in general terms, right? LC says toy guns. Is it contradicting the LC description or not? Is it contradicting the LC description or not? I don't know. Something like that.
It is not mentioned the toys type.
Huh?
It is not mentioned the what is the toys type.
In general terms.
But
In general terms. Huh?
But bill of lading is a legal document between shipper and.
Okay. But what are the goods loaded on in the ship? Toys, right? Toys can be. Toy guns are toys, right? Right? In
general it is okay.
Yeah, BL toys are. හැබැයි BL එකේ ගහලා තියෙනවා මෙන්න මෙහෙම. BL එකේ ලියලා තියෙනවා toys නෙමෙයි. Guns කියලා. BL එකේ ගහලා guns කියලා. Toy guns. BL එකේ ගහලා guns. Is it correct? Then it is wrong. Is wrong. These guns can be AK-47, T-56, 0.39 millimeter pistols, anything can, guns. But this is toys. In general terms, it is okay. Right? Okay. I think I have covered up to Article 14. Article 15, compliant presentations, read, and then Article 16 also read these different documents. Now, till next week, if you can read these 16 articles, it's very good, right? Next week again, මම තව articles එකක් හෝ දෙකක් කතා කරගෙන මම ඔයගොල්ලන්ව දිගටම අරගෙන යන්නම්. ඔය අතරේ. Right? Any questions regarding today's presentation? Any questions regarding today's presentation? Please ask. We managed to cover, I think, I'm not very happy, but to a certain extent, I'm happy because my crowd is not so bad, but not very good. quickly answer කරන්න තව ටිකක් අපිට අතට තව ආටිකල්ස් තුනක්වත් කවර් කරන්න පුළුවන් ටයිම් එකක් ගියා තුනක් හතරක් කවර් කරන්න ඉක්මන answers but for that you have to be conversant with the UCP articles, right? Okay, if you have any questions, read it, and then before we start the sessions next week, I will start it exactly 8:30 till 8. अभी हम plan करेंगे till 8:35, 40. If you have any issues, ask me, right? But if you are not asking me any questions, 8:30 I am going to start the session, right? Otherwise, you are having this option. Okay, fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.